Hi everyone, this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a floating style necklace with a little dangle pendant, double pendants here. And we're going to be using the newest treasure bags, the Flowers and Shells series. And we're going to be using the Demure collection and the Sophisticated collection. I will show you what we're going to use from both bags. So regardless if you have one or the other or both, you will see how to make these with your particular beads. So this is what this looks like. I'm going to get you in a little closer and let you see the units here. This just turns out really pretty. So that's what we're going to be making, and I am going to go ahead and gather things together, show you what we're going to be using, and we'll get started. Okay, so in this tutorial, we will be making a floating type necklace, and that's where you have sections of beads that are just spaced to where you can see the base wire or whatever it is you're using to put your beads on in between. So it makes kind of a floating type of look. So we're going to be making a floating necklace, and we're going to be putting some pendants on it. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do in both bags. So this is the Demure bag, and this is what this one's going to look like. So what you're going to use for the Demure bag is you're going to use some of your little golden frame oval beads in the seashell color, and then you're going to be using all 6 of your column beads in the burley wood color that are in your crystal bag. And then you're going to be using some of the 8mm round baked glitter glass type beads. They have a little bit of a golden glaze on them. We're going to be using some of those. We're also going to be using the seashell, the natural one with the electroplated gold on it, and then we're going to be using the little trumpet shell or conch shell with the faux pearl in it. Now, that's the color scheming for the Demure bag. For the Sophisticated bag, we're going to be again using the oval beads, which are black golden frame in your bag, and we're going to be using the black bicones because I think they're just going to look better than the color of the column beads in that bag. I think the black is going to look nicer. So instead of using the column beads, we're going to use these, and when I put these on, because I'm going to be designing this one on camera, if you have the Demure bag, you'll be putting these on right where I put these on. So it's the same technique, it's just one bead will change. And these are a little bit, they should be about the same length, they're just a little bit bulkier, but it should work out just fine. Then instead of using these baked beads, we're going to be using these golden drizzle black beads, the 8mm. And these seem to be just a little bit smaller than these, but I think it's still going to work out okay. And then I am adding to the mix some of my bead caps that I added in the bag. However, I know you don't have enough to do this, and I know we already did a tutorial that used them all. I have them on order. They should be here in the next couple of days. I'll put them on the website, and I'll put a link for them if I have them by the time this airs. If I do not, then they will be coming, and I'll come back to the tutorial and put a link. But these will be coming. You can do this without bead caps. You can do it with something you have already in your stash also. And then I'm going to be using a lobster claw clasp and some heavier gauge 8mm round or 8mm in diameter jump rings. And I'm also going to be using some lighter gauge 6mm jump rings. So to make the pendant part, we're going to need about 6 of these little jump rings, and they need to be a very light gauge to go through the hole on this pendant. So you can't have a really thick gauge to do that. I'm going to be using one head pin for the dangle at the end of our extender we're going to put on. You don't need to put an extender on this. This is going to be about a 22-inch necklace or so. You can make it shorter, you can make it longer, however you want. I just thought it looked pretty with the extender, and since it's a long dangly type, I thought it would look really nice over a sweater or something in the winter, so I made it a longer necklace. You can make it a shorter one, of course. We're also going to be using two little clamshell ends, and we're going to be using a bunch of size 1 crimp beads. So this is a Beadalon size 1 in the golden color, and we're going to use several of those. So you want a nice amount of them in your little jar to start with. And then we're going to be using this Beadalon beading wire, and it is the Satin Gold. However, this is the bigger gauge one, so it's 0.024 inch or 0.61 millimeter. This is prettier than the satin in the smaller, finer diameter here. This is prettier. It looks nice as a floating necklace, so I recommend that you use this particular type. It looks really pretty, and it's a little heavier, so it holds up really nice as a floating necklace base. So that's what we're going to be using, and we're going to cut about 22 inches of it, and then we will go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, we are going to join 6 of our lighter gauge, and this about 6 to 7 millimeter round. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want to stay about that size range, and you want it to be a lighter gauge of wire. We're going to join all 6 of them together. So grab a pair of chain nose and a pair of flat nose, or 2 chain nose, whatever you have, and find the opening in your jump ring. Place it in the middle between your 2 pliers. So I have this one here. I'm going to place this one here and just twist it open. And then I'm going to drop 2 of these jump rings on here and close it. And then I can just stretch these out. I'm going to open this one and drop a jump ring on. The ones that you drop on, you'll have to make sure are closed when you get finished. So I'm going to open this one here. And drop another jump ring on. Let me get you closer and get you to where you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just joining jump rings together in a line here. And I'll open this one and drop one more on here. And close it. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this end of my 6 jump rings, and I'm going to open the very end one. And I'm going to open it pretty wide like this. And then you have a hole through the side of this little pendant here. So we're going to go kind of hold your jump ring kind of flat. And then you can just slide that on there like this. And then you can close your jump ring. Close it tightly. And now you have one shell on here. And now we're going to put this one on this side. Now this shell, the loop was sideways up and down, and this one it's flat. So I'm going to see if I can turn it. Yeah, I can just turn it. So I'm going to turn it so that when I lay it on my bead mat, it's up and down like this, not parallel and flat to the bead mat. It's up and down. And you can just gently turn that little top there, the little loop. That will ensure that it's going to hang correctly. I'm going to open this end jump ring and slide this one on here. And then I'm going to close it. All of these natural shells are a little bit different size, so this one's a little bit bigger than the last one I had, but I think this should still lay pretty well. So what you're going to do now is you're going to grab your beading wire and these first two beads, so jump rings, not beads, but you're going to leave alone this one, the first one that attaches the pendant on, and then the second two on your strand, you're going to run your beading wire through. So the second and third jump ring are going to go through the beading wire. And I'll get you close so you can see what I did. Just like that. And then, actually, we're going to do that the opposite way. I want this one up higher. So we're going to leave this one alone, and we're going to go through the second and third above it. So you're going to do it over the conch shell one. Sorry about that. But this one, we want to hang a little higher than that one. So we're going to use the second and third jump ring right above the trumpet shell. And then we're just going to center this on the beading wire. So let me back off a little bit here. And I'll just put my ends together and just draw my pendants down to the middle here. And then I'm going to rearrange just a little bit here. Once you have this centered, then you're going to drop your little oval beads on. So of course you're going to use the seashell color for the demure bag, and you're going to use the black for the sophisticated bag. So I'm just going to drop one on both sides of my pendants here. And just make sure everything is hanging the way you want it. Yeah, I need to turn this around so both of my shells, not that it matters at this point, you can turn it either way regardless, but I just want to have it laying exactly how I want it to lay on my neck. So now I have those two on. I am then either, if you have a demure bag, you're going to grab this bead. If you have the sophisticated bag, you're going to grab this bead, and you're going to drop them on both sides. And then we will put another of the oval beads. Again, use the color specific to your bag. Okay, get on there, you little thing, you. And then I am going to center again, because you're going to have to center several times as you do this. Just put your wires together on the end, pull, and while holding onto your pendants, and center it, because it's going to get off center a billion times in a row. So now I'm going to use a bead cap again. Like I said, I will have these on my website soon. Use one that you have in your stash if you'd like, or just go ahead and put your bead on without it. These beads have a little bit bigger hole, so having a bead cap to help stop the crimp bead we're going to put on is going to help. So I do recommend that you use them if you can. So now I'm putting on a bead cap and one of my gold drizzle beads. Of course, you will be using these beads for the demure. And they have a smaller hole, so you can just drop those straight on without worrying about the crimp tube going through. And then again, we're going to put, well, on this bottom one we're not, but on the next one we're going to put the oval beads on either side, so you shouldn't have an issue. On this first section, I'm not going to, but you can. You could drop your oval beads on either side and then do your crimping like I'm going to show you also. And I seem to have lost a pendant. So I didn't get my jump ring closed properly, obviously. So I'm going to put that back on and close it properly. Okay, we're going to maybe have to switch out that jump ring, but for the sake of getting this finished, I'll leave it alone for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to center this, and you want to center this really well right now because we're going to establish our center and keep it centered by grabbing some size 1 crimp beads. So I'm just going to put a little pile out. I'm going to pick up my end. I'm holding on to my middle so it stays centered in the place I want it. I'm dropping down one of my little size 1 crimp tubes, and I am just going to kind of push it down. Now on this side, you don't want to push real hard. Just get right above that little bead cap and squeeze the crimp tube. And then on this side, you can push down a little bit more and stabilize everything. But on this side, you'll just push it over if you do that. So once you get one side established, then you can grab the other side, pull on your bead, your beading, you know, the stuff, the beading wire a little bit, just a little bit gently, and push down a little bit gently on the crimp bead and then crimp. That will hold everything stable. Except for I didn't get it crimped, so let's do that again. Now it's crimped. And I'm going to use these little pliers because they seem to crimp it a little better. And you can do a traditional crimping on this. You can use your second divot, crimp it, and then use your first if you'd like. But this is the simplest way. If you can keep them nice and secure, then do it this way. And now I have messed up my pendant because of that everything, but that's okay. It'll be all right. So now I am going to space out my next section, and I'm going to do it about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. You can do whatever spacing you would like, but I think on my first one I did a 1/2 inch. Let me measure. Okay, yep, from edge of crimp bead to crimp bead, it's a 1/2 inch. So you can measure each one to make sure, or a 1/2 inch? Yeah, it's a 1/2 inch. So you can measure each one to make sure they're the same, or you can eyeball them. I am going to put on a crimp bead to make my next section. I am going to measure it about 1/2 inch from the very edge of my crimp tube to the very edge of this crimp tube or bead, whatever you want to call it. Leave it stable on my desk and grab a hold of it and squeeze it, just like that. Now, you can do the other side just by bringing your beads together, just like this. Put another one on, draw it up, make sure you have the same amount of space and crimp it. Or you can grab your ruler and make sure that you've got it exactly how you want it. Try not to move it. Grab a hold of it, and it moved. So I have to measure that again. It's best if you just grab onto it and have your ruler in hand as you've got a hold of it, because once you try to grab a hold of it, you can see how I'm chasing it around. It wants to move. So if I can never get a hold of the darn thing, I can just hold my ruler in place and then squeeze it, just like that. Now I know that my spacing is going to be symmetrical, and I'm going to give these another nice squeeze. And then I am going to grab my next series, and my next series will be some oval beads. Get a few of these out here. So I'll use an oval bead, and then I'll use my bead caps and my 8mm round bead. Where's the hole? There it is. And then another bead cap. And then an oval bead. So you see, if you put the oval beads on either side, you don't necessarily have to have the bead caps because they have small holes and the crimp beads are not going to move. So now I have my next section, and I'm going to grab my crimping tool. I'm going to just push it all together. I'm not pushing it so tight that it makes everything stiff, but just making sure there's absolutely no slack. And then I'm going to squeeze it, just like that. So you don't want your bead caps wobbling around, but you don't want it so tight that you make your wire weird. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Just grab one of my oval beads, bring it down to that crimp bead I've already established, and then I will string on a cap, an 8mm round bead, a cap, and then I am going to put on another oval and a crimp bead. And then I can grab my little crimping pliers here, or flat nose, or whatever you've got, doesn't matter. And I'm going to hold on to it and make sure that there's no slack, and then I'm going to squeeze, just like that. Make sure that it's actually crimped, and then we're going to do our next spacing. So basically what we're doing on this, I'll show you, is we are going to, here's my midsection here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a round and then space it out again and do the column beads, and then a round, column bead, and then a round. So my next one will be a column bead, or on this one it's a bicone. So I'm going to pick up my crimping bead, and I'm going to grab my ruler, hold on to this with my plier, grab my ruler, establish my 1/2 inch. Again, you can eyeball it with the other side if you'd like, but this just ensures that they're all going to be basically the same. Okay, so now that I've got that one established, I am just going to grab my oval bead, and for this one I'm just going to drop it on, and then I'm going to drop this one on. So I've got an oval, my bicone, and an oval. And on your demurrer bag, you're going to have an oval, a column, and an oval, just like that. And then I will again crimp it. And we're going to continue doing this until we have made 4 sections. So I'm going to show you on this one by my middle. There's my middle. So we are going to do round, and then bicone or column, round, bicone or column, and then round. And then we'll come back after we've done both sides doing this. Now, it's the exact same thing I've showed you so many times here. So you're just going to do the same thing, measure it, and put your next one on. And I would recommend doing both sides, you know, alternating. That way you can look at it, hold it, and make sure that you have them in alignment as you make them. So this one, I can line it up with this one, do my measuring, but make sure that it looks the same on the other side. So continue doing that, alternating your sections with your beads, and make your sections until you have 4 on each side, and we'll be back. Okay, so now you can see I've done all my little sections of beads alternating them. And now I am finished. So I have put on all 4 above the centerpiece here. And I have my ends together here. I'm going to scoot this down and center everything perfectly. And you can see that one wire is just a little longer than the other on the end here. I'm going to cut them both about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch long at the same length like this. And then I'm going to grab one of my little clamshell ends and I'm going to drop it from the bottom onto there. And then I need another crimp tube. So I'm going to grab my little crimp bead and I'm going to pop it on that wire, which is becoming a challenge here with the little short wire. There we go. Oh, come on, get on there. Okay, finally, I got him. So now I'm going to grab my little chain nose pliers. I'm going to grab a hold of that little crimp tube inside the clamshell. I know you can't see it very well, but I'm holding on to it. I'm holding it as straight as I can. I'm pulling on the wire. I'm pushing down on the crimp bead, and then I squeeze, just like this. That will give me a nice, secure little end. You can drop some glue in there if you'd like. Cut the wire down to about 1 millimeter above your crimp tube. Oh, come on. My pliers are getting kind of dull, but regardless, then just close your clamshell end. So the way I do it is I like to kind of straighten out the belly on the sides, push the belly closed, push the top closed. Just make sure you have everything in alignment so that your little clamshell end, the little tubes here or the little loops here, will accommodate your jump rings. Do the same thing on the other side, and then we will come back and put our clasping on. So just drop your little end on, put a crimp tube on, crimp it, and we will be back. Okay, so I just noticed that I did my end differently on this one than I did on this one. So what I did on this one was I left my 1/2 inch of wire here, dropped my clamshell down, crimped the very end of the wire, leaving 1 millimeter hanging out, and then brought up my clamshell and closed it. So you can do that. Or on this one, like I showed you, I dropped my clamshell down to the beads, and then I crimped it and closed it. And then I've dropped a jump ring and my lobster claw clasp on the loop of that, and I'll show you. For this one, I'm going to put a jump ring on this side. I've opened the jump ring, and I'm just going to slide it on, and this is a little heavy jump ring, so it takes me a second to get it on. I'm going to put it on, then I've joined 4 more jump rings together just for an extender. I'm going to drop them on and close this. And I just noticed my lights weren't on. There we go. So now I have a nice little ending for my necklace. So you're just going to drop a jump ring and a clasp on this side, put your little extender on this side, and then I'm going to make a little bobble for the end here. So I'm going to use a headpin, ball headpin, and one of my 8 millimeter round beads, and then another bead cap. And I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, wherever they might be. Here they are. And I'm going to hold on to the bead from the top here, just like this. Then I'm going to push the wire over the back portion of the pliers while I hold the pliers flat. Then I'm going to reposition my pliers so that they are now up and down instead of flat. Bring the wire over the top of the plier, and then reposition my plier so it's flat and bring the wire underneath the plier. I'm just going to kind of rock it a little bit. You can either rock it towards you or away from you, just however you need to center that little loop, like this. And then I'm going to grab a flat nose pair of pliers, hold on to it, switch hands. When I switched hands, I turned over my piece, so now this wire is behind it, behind the wire going down into the bead, and I'm just going to coil around the wire going down into the bead until I tighten the beads onto the eye or the head pin. And then I am going to cut that very short and tuck in the little extra piece with my crimping portion of my tool here. I cut that a little long, so I'm going to hold on to this end and see if I can tuck that in. It's always the hardest part to tuck in that little guy. I'm going to cut it a little shorter. On these units it spins a lot, so let's see if I can actually do this. There we go, I got it. There. So now I have this cute little bauble, and I'm just going to open the last jump ring on my piece here. Just find the opening when you open jump rings and put your pliers on both sides of the opening and twist it open, and then drop your bauble on and twist it closed. So now there's my ending, and I will put both of these pieces out. Let me clean up my bead mat and I'll show you what we've made. And here they are. They turn out really pretty. I just think that the black goes really well with the gold, and the neutral colors, I like them both. They turn out really nice. Now, I want to tell you, I have some more of these on my website, packages of 5s. That's this little conch shell here, and I'm going to make a bracelet and maybe some earrings with these in another tutorial so that I can use these. I have a lot of packages of these, and I ordered a big batch of them because I just really like them. So if you want to get some of these, I'll post a link. But I do think that I'm going to try to make like a charm bracelet, maybe some earrings, a few things with these because they're really pretty. I really like them. Anyway, that's what we've made today, and I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.